We're back with Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan, who officially announced his presidential bid yesterday. He joins us this morning from Pittsburgh. Welcome to Face the Nation. You've promised to unify the country. You just heard the possibility of grounds for impeachment in this potential Mueller report disclosure. Would that hurt your attempts to unify the country?
Well, it's never a pretty process. I hope we can get it behind us. I hope that there's a good deal of transparency. I don't think that's too much to ask, but I think as long as we refocus on the economic problems that are facing most people in the United States, that can be a unifying thing. We start listening to each other, we start respecting each other. That's going to be most important in unifying the country.
You spoke about in your launch the closure of a GM plant, inspiring your decision to run. Are you promising to bring manufacturing jobs back to the Midwest? Isn't the future more in a service-based economy?
My focus is going to be on creating an industrial policy in the United States. We are getting our clocks cleaned by China right now when it comes to electric vehicles, when it comes to solar panels, when it comes to additive manufacturing. These are areas that are growing significantly. And for electric vehicles, there's 2 million electric vehicle cars now. There's going to be 30 million in 2030. Who's going to make those cars? I want us to be making those cars in the industrial Midwest.
How do you do that? With government subsidies?
Well, it's a public-private partnerships. You sit down with the private sector, you work with the Department of Energy, the Department of Defense, the National Science Foundation. You sit down and you put a long-term strategy together, and then you work with the venture capital community so that the investments are driven into distressed communities, the old coal communities, steel communities, rubber and auto communities that have lost jobs the last 30 years. There's been no plan to help those communities at all. That's going to be a priority for me, and we're going to get it done.
So that's a yes to government subsidies?
Well, you have tax incentives, you have the tax code, you have, the help from, it's going to be a public-private partnership. It's not going to be all government, no centralized planning, and it's not going to be all free market, cut taxes for the top 1% and hope some crumbs get sprinkled to the Youngstown, Ohios of the world. It's going to be a complete, comprehensive strategy on how we dominate these markets, not China.
Former President Barack Obama was speaking in Germany recently over the weekend and said that he's concerned about rigidity. That was the word he used among liberal Democrats who are kind of hurting the party, arguing amongst themselves, was the gist of what he says. Do you agree with him?
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes that can happen, but as long as we're united on our values, look, we got to make progress. Here's the key, progress. We're going backwards. I'm an old quarterback. Look, you got to get first downs. You got to move the ball down the field if you're going to score, and we're going backwards right now. So we've got to find issues we can unify around and pass them and move the ball down the field.
What is that?
Well, like for single payer, for example, I've been a supporter of single payer, but I think if we can get it down.
But you also support the Affordable Care Act.
I did, because that was moving the ball down the field. That was providing more health care for more people, making it more affordable.
So you want both?
I'm sorry?
You want both options? How does that work?
Well, when you're sitting there negotiating, I can't negotiate with you right now with the House and the Senate and the White House, but I want more people to have more affordable coverage. I want there to be some kind of public option where middle-class people who work hard and pay by the rules can get some help so they're not getting squeezed by the pharmaceutical companies and the healthcare companies. That's what I want. And so what does that look like after it goes through the process? It ended up with the Affordable Care Act, so I voted for it. But you know what? I also supported the public option in the Affordable Care Act, but we couldn't get it done. I'm saying let's move the ball forward. President Trump and the Republicans right now want to kick people off of health care. That's going in the wrong direction. So progressives, independents, we need to unify around policies that move the ball down the field and start helping working class people. All
right. Congressman Tim Ryan, we will watch your campaign in a crowded Democratic field.
Thanks for having me.
And we will all be back with you in a moment. Stay with us.